Hello everyone, this is ponderonweather. In this update, we have a cold blast with some heavy rain and snow and some amazing fall foliage on the way. So let's talk temperatures this morning up here in Alaska. And there's temperatures actually checking in this morning for the first time ever so far this season of below zero. The Arctic Village is a -8 degrees. A lot of that colder air mass is going to be dislodging from Alaska and setting up shop over portions of Canada and filtering into parts of the US as we get into next week. So let's take a look at the overall water vapor imagery this morning and all the storm activity that was elongated over portions of the southeast yesterday has now shifted off into portions of the mid-Atlantic states and into the northeast, where they're expecting some heavier rains and some stronger thunderstorms this afternoon. Further south, there is Carl out here into the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico, just kind of sitting and spinning out there. But it is kind of shearing off and bringing some rain showers and some stronger thunderstorms into portions of Florida and help amplifying the moisture content that's going to be impacting parts of the Northeast today. So in fact, they do have a marginal risk for some of those to be severe, some of those stronger wind gusts and some larger hail at times. So portions of Richmond back into DC area, back into Baltimore, into Philly, up here as far north as Scranton could see some of those storms turn severe. But further north you go, we do have a slight risk for excessive heavy rainfall today. So some of those could be producing well over an inch, if not some 3-inch amounts in some of these spots into portions of New Jersey, back into portions of New York here, Connecticut, Massachusetts, up here into Vermont and New Hampshire, as well as portions of Maine. So expect some heavier rainfall and downpours later on this afternoon, getting into the evening time frame. So now let's turn to the tropics and look at Carl, because there's actually something interesting I want to highlight here. Because we had Julia, right? So Julia impacted portions of Central America. It actually crossed over into the Pacific. It kept more or less the DNA. It kept the tropical storm strength. So it actually kept the name Julia once it entered out here into the Pacific. But it's now reemerged, and some of the DNA got lost and it got reemerged back here into the Gulf of Mexico. And that's why they took the name, the new name, which was Carl. Now, with that cold blast coming through, it's going to push this system back down to the south. It's going to be crossing over Mexico, and it could actually reemerge back here into the Pacific. And if it does 100% dissipate, and by the chance of actually possibly reforming again, it could actually take a new name, which would take Rosalind. So that would be 3 storms out of the kind of the same type of DNA. Has that happened before? I really had to dig deep for this one, guys. I had to go way back in the archives. Actually, there was way back in 1961. We had a storm out here, took the name Hattie, crossed over, dissipated, reformed. It took a new name, Simone, then dissipated, and then reformed again back into the Gulf and took the new name of Inga. So it has happened before. It's a rare occasion, but it's a possibility, because it actually has about a 60% probability of it dissipating and possibly reforming, taking a new name. So that would be 3 named storms out of the kind of the same type system. So that would be very unique. So I kind of nerd out on this stuff. So I wanted to highlight that was definitely an interesting feature that might come to fruition sometime next week. So let's talk about some amazing fall foliage now. Man, this is the middle of October. This is what we live for, guys. I mean, right now, all the fall foliage has been really highlighted over our northern states. You can see that on the graph in the right-hand corner of the screen. This was recently updated on October the 10th. But with this cold blast on the table coming up for this upcoming week, that's going to put a lot of these areas further south, and it's going to be changing the leaves in a big way. And I think you're going to like it for what's to come as we get into next week. So now let's talk some temperatures. So as we go into Friday, so those storms impact to portions of the Northeast today, but back behind it, we have our first initial blast. We talked about the cold air kind of dislodging from Alaska and elongating off the northwest flow, and that'll set up their first initial blast of colder air into portions of the upper Great Lakes and diving down here into the mid-Atlantic states. But back behind it, that's going to bring some snow. So it's going to be snowing in portions of Canada, but some of that snow will actually filter in on our northern portions of Minnesota as well as Wisconsin, and bring some chillier air. And you can definitely going to feel it in a big way, while their storms still on Friday are going to be starting to push off further off into the northeast. Still dealing with those rain showers, kind of the light to moderate rain, probably nothing severe at that point, but still dealing with that activity as this continues to push off the East Coast. But by the time we get into Sunday, we're going to have a reinforcing shot. So notice Alaska, it starts to warm up, right? So that air is going to be dislodging from there and going to be really starting to amplify and impact portions of the upper Great Lakes again. A lot of the same areas that's going to cool off tomorrow, it's going to be really feeling the effects as we get into Sunday. But other areas further to the south will start feeling the effects as well, as those that cold blast will start impacting portions of the south and eventually parts of the southeast. But more importantly, we're watching this upper level low that's going to be coming in from California, that's going to be making its way eastbound. By the time we get into Sunday, we could be talking rain showers into parts of Texas here. Dallas is at day 40 now without a drop of rain. So this is a welcome sight to see, to say the least. So yeah, rain showers and much needed rain showers, portions of Arizona, back into New Mexico, a good chunk of Texas. I think the southern portions of Oklahoma and especially North Texas are going to be impacted on Sunday, in portions of Arkansas, while the snow still starts to fly, and again, the upper Great Lakes here and our far northern regions. But there's the cold air mass, and this is that initial shock of those colder temperatures pushing from dislodging from Alaska and coming in from Canada, now entering the US. So we're talking 10, 15, even upwards to 20 degrees below average temperatures, what you would typically see this time of year. And it starts to filter into a good chunk of the south as well, along with that remnants of that low pressure center. We could be talking kind of a chillier rain in a good chunk of Texas by the time we get into Monday as well. I think most of the activity will move out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, impact you guys on Monday morning. But further south into, say, central Texas, South Texas, we'll start getting into the action with that much needed rain as well, while snowflakes still flying up here into the upper Great Lakes and parts of Wisconsin with that continued push of colder air. So as we get into Tuesday, it really starts to deepen. So the stronger the ridge is further off into the northwest, the more maximizing this cold blast will be with the temperature gradient. Now we're talking, well, good chunk of the 20 below average temperatures for much of the southeast. So you're going to be feeling this cold front in a big way as we get into Tuesday. And then back behind it, there's the air mass. So it's going to be crystal clear skies back behind this system after the cold front moves through. So it should be a really nice day with much cooler air mass on the way, and then still some snow and some chillier rain flying to the north and into the upper Great Lakes. And then there's the precipitation. So like I mentioned, it's pretty dry behind this big initial cold blast. And where the rain is going to be falling, that could be keeping temperatures down even a little bit further as we get into the mid-Atlantic states into Tuesday afternoon. So let's talk about real-time temperatures. As we get into Tuesday afternoon, 21Z is right around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's typically peak heating. And all these areas in green, these are high temperatures, folks. That's 40s on the map. Yeah, that's not a misprint. Those are high temperatures in the 40s. Dipping down all the way into Missouri and a good chunk of portions of Kentucky, even 50s for Oklahoma, Arkansas, a good chunk of Mississippi and Alabama and parts of Georgia. High of 63 in Dallas, 69 in Waco. You guys hit 100 degrees yesterday, latest 100 degree on record all time. 69 degree for a high on Tuesday. That's going to be a welcome relief for sure. And all those 60s, look, even along the coast. So this is going to be a pretty massive cold blast, and a lot of you guys are really going to start to feel it in a big way. And so by the time we wake up on Wednesday, most of the real estate is going to be covered with that cold blast and pushing those 30s in the freezing line all the way down into Missouri, even parts of Arkansas, and a good chunk of the southeast. Parts of the southeast are going to be seeing their first frost advisories of the season, with widespread 40s showing up in Texas and Louisiana. So this, you're going to be definitely feeling this colder blast for a good chunk of the country is going to be seeing those much cooler conditions on the way for sure. So by the time we go into Thursday, right? So Thursday, I mentioned rapid clearing behind this front. So it's going to be a really nice week, actually. A lot of sunshine behind this front, but in that chillier temperatures, this is what you live for, right? I mean, it's just going to be a nice week ahead next week, especially in the early part of the week. But there is a system out in the Pacific that could be the regeneration and what could be Roslyn by then. So it'll be interesting if this actually comes to fruition, but there's a 60% probability that it does. So now let's talk about temperatures into the Pacific Northwest, because I know you guys have been, hey, what about me? What about me? When are we going to cool down? When are we going to get rain, right? So finally, after the 20th, right? So we do see a pretty significant trough that's going to be diving in again from Alaska now, and that's going to be dragging down some of that colder air mass. And finally, you guys will start to see the cooler temperatures, and the ridge will start to shift from the northwest now and back into portions of the northeast. Well, where the parts of the West Coast are going to be experiencing the rain coming back in the picture finally, with this pretty good trough that's going to be dagging down, and a pretty good vorticity to it. You can see these tight isobars dragging down that colder air and finally pulling back the atmospheric river. Typically it would already start by then, so it's definitely been delayed. But it does look to highlight welcome rains are on the way after the 20th time frame, and much cooler conditions as well. So much of the West Coast, hang on tight. We do see some changes for you guys as well, but it won't be until after the 20th of the month. So if you took a look at the next 10 days as far as rain prospects, we got welcome rains in Southern California, you know, with that low pressure center coming through in portions of Arizona, New Mexico, and definitely welcome rains into Texas. It's not a washout by any means, but any of this rain after you go through 40 days of nothing is a welcome sight to see, with some added moisture in the atmosphere, and those plants and everything, the grass and all the trees out there are going to be definitely saying hallelujah with all this, with some rain finally entering the picture. But yeah, a good chunk of the southeast, a lot of this action has been pretty dry, so this is definitely going to be welcome rains for sure. And further north, a lot of this activity, some of it could be in the form of snow, while the heavier rains really set up and elongate on a good chunk of the northeast, well up into portions of New England. So now let's talk about the snow. So here's where the snow could fly. Most of the heavier snow is going to be up in Canada, but we could be looking at a dusting or two. Can't rule out some of these places could pick up 1 to 3 inches of snow over the next 7 days, but not expecting big totals at all. But it should be some snowflakes flying, at least for sure, in portions of the upper Great Lakes. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update, why I protect you before and after the storm.